For 31 years, a mother carried an unbearable truth, that her baby boy was gone forever. She prayed. She searched. She fought to keep hope alive, even when the world told her to let go. Then, one ordinary day in 2018, the impossible happened. A knock at the door, and words she never thought she would hear: "Your son is alive. We found him." This is the story of Jermaine Mann, a child stolen at just 21 months old, hidden in plain sight under a false identity, and a mother whose love never died. Welcome to the Found Files, where the lost are never forgotten, and the found remind us why hope matters. If you believe every missing soul deserves to have their story told, don't just watch, subscribe. Because your support keeps these stories alive. Toronto, mid-1980s. A city alive with movement, neon lights, and quiet suburban streets. Inside a modest home, a young mother, Lyneth Mann-Lewis, was building a simple dream: to give her little boy the life he deserved. Jermaine Allen Mann was more than just a child. He was her miracle, her joy, the reason she kept pushing forward. At just 21 months old, he was full of life, curly hair, wide eyes, and a laugh that could melt the hardest heart. Every step he took, every sound he made, reminded her that she was not just surviving, she was living for him. The bond between them was unshakable. Lyneth poured her love into Jermaine, holding him close, whispering promises of a future she was determined to give him. She imagined birthday parties, school graduations, and the milestones that only a mother dares to dream about. But in the shadows of those tender moments, an unease lingered. Jermaine's father, Allen Mann, had visitation rights, and though Lyneth believed she was doing what was right, she could not know that the man she once trusted was preparing to shatter her world. For now, though, there was peace. Just a mother and her son, unaware that their ordinary life was about to be torn apart forever. June 24, 1987. It was supposed to be just another day. Jermaine's father, Allen Mann, had been granted a court-ordered visit. Lyneth, though uneasy, believed in the system, believed her child would be safe in his father's care. But when that door closed behind them, a darker story began. Hours passed, then a night, then another. And Jermaine never came home. For Lyneth, time froze. Panic turned to dread as the realization struck: her son was gone, stolen not by a stranger in the shadows, but by the very man who should have protected him. Allen Mann had vanished across borders, armed with forged papers, a fabricated plan, and a ruthless determination to sever Jermaine from the only family that truly loved him. In a single afternoon, Lyneth's entire world collapsed. The crib sat empty, the toys untouched, the laughter silenced. She reported the disappearance, and investigators launched a search. Posters were printed, names entered into databases, and hope clung to every corner of Toronto. But Allen had thought ahead. Each step of his deception, carefully calculated, carefully concealed. While Lyneth was begging for answers, Allen was already rewriting his son's identity, turning Jermaine into someone who no longer existed on paper. It was not just a disappearance. It was a betrayal so deep, it cut through generations. A father's lie, a mother's nightmare, and a child erased from the life he was meant to live. As the years slipped by, Jermaine Mann grew, but not as Jermaine. Across the border, in the quiet neighborhoods of the United States, he was given a new name, a new birth certificate, a new life built entirely on lies. His father, Allen, spun a story so convincing that even Jermaine believed it: his mother was gone, dead before he was old enough to remember her. And so, Jermaine lived in the shadows of someone else's truth. He went to school, played in parks, walked through life surrounded by ordinary faces, yet everything about him was extraordinary, a missing child hiding in plain sight. But life under a false identity comes with chains. Allen forged documents, fabricated histories, and wove a web so tangled that neither of them could step into the light. Every doctor's visit, every school registration, every government form was a risk that could expose them. And so, they lived small, cautious, always one wrong question away from being discovered. For Jermaine, there must have been questions, the quiet kind that sit heavy on a child's chest. Why didn't he look like his friends? Why did his father avoid certain conversations? Why did the past feel like a locked door he was never allowed to open? He had no way of knowing that hundreds of miles away, his real mother was still searching, still praying, still keeping hope alive. For Jermaine, life was a lie. For Lyneth, life was a wound that never healed. For 31 years, the lie held strong. 31 years of forged papers, false names, and borrowed time. But even the most carefully crafted deception cannot last forever. In 2018, the cracks began to show. Alan Mann had been living off fraudulent housing claims in Connecticut, quietly drawing government benefits, believing his paper trail was untraceable. But this time, the system pushed back. Investigators noticed the inconsistencies, dates that didn't line up, documents that felt too clean, too artificial. Behind closed doors, federal agents began piecing together the puzzle. A man with a false name. A son with no traceable past. The whispers of a secret that had been buried since 1987. And then, the match. The lies collapsed under the weight of truth. Fingerprints, records, and relentless investigation revealed what Lyneth had always known in her heart: her son was alive. For Alan, the walls closed in. For Jermaine, the world he thought was real was about to crumble. And for Lyneth, after 3 decades of silence, the words she had waited her entire life to hear were finally coming. The phone rang. A knock at the door. A trembling voice delivering the words no mother dares to hope for, yet Lyneth Mann-Lewis had prayed to hear for 31 long years. Your son is alive. We found him. For a moment, the world stood still. The missing posters, the sleepless nights, the whispered prayers, all of it crashing into a single truth. Her little boy, stolen before his 2nd birthday, had not vanished into darkness. He had been alive all along. Jermaine, now a grown man, was told the truth that would rewrite his entire existence. The mother he believed had died. She had never stopped searching. The life he thought was his? Built on lies. His very identity, shattered, rebuilt in an instant. The revelation was not just a discovery. It was a resurrection. Proof that hope, even buried under decades of silence, can survive. Proof that a mother's love had reached across borders, across years, across death itself, and refused to let go. After 31 years of silence, the doors finally opened. In a small room, Lyneth Mann-Lewis stood trembling, her hands pressed together as if in prayer. And then, he walked in. No longer the toddler she remembered, but a grown man, yet still, unmistakably her son. For a heartbeat, time froze. The decades apart dissolved into nothing. Jermaine looked at her, eyes wide, filled with shock, disbelief, and something deeper. He stepped forward, arms shaking, and whispered words that broke the silence of a lifetime. "Mommy, you have my eyes." They fell into each other's arms, clutching tight, as if letting go might undo the miracle. Tears flowed freely, 31 years of grief, of questions, of hope, all released in one embrace. For those watching, it was more than a reunion. It was a resurrection. This was not just a mother meeting her son. This was love that refused to die, a bond that distance, lies, and decades could never break. Jermaine Mann's story is more than a tale of abduction. It is a testament to the endurance of a mother's love, and the resilience of hope when the world says to give up. For 31 years, Jermaine lived under a false name, carrying the weight of a stolen identity. For 31 years, his mother lived with an empty chair, an unanswered prayer, and a wound that time could not heal. And yet, when the truth finally emerged, love triumphed. Lyneth's refusal to stop searching brought her son home. Jermaine's discovery was proof that even in the darkest silence, hope can outlast despair. But let this sink in: how many mothers are still waiting? How many children remain hidden, their names erased, their stories untold? Here, on the Found Files, we refuse to let their voices fade. Every time you like, share, or subscribe, you are keeping these stories alive. You are standing with the families who are still searching. Don't just click away. Don't be a silent witness. Honor their fight. Keep hope alive. Subscribe now to the Found Files, because every lost soul deserves to be found, and every story deserves an ending.